Hi, this is Jeremy James, plant physiologist at the Eastern Oregon Ag Research Center, and I'm here to present an Ag Minute. This week we are talking about micronutrients. Yesterday we talked about zinc. Today we are wrapping up this discussion by talking about molybdenum. Now imagine, it is safe to bet that most folks here have never even heard of molybdenum. And so a good question is, if so few people have heard about this, why are we even talking about it? Well, the fact is that while plants do not need a lot of this compound, some plants, particularly legumes, can really be damaged if molybdenum is not present at adequate levels. Plant requirements of molybdenum are low compared to almost every other nutrient. However, this compound is an important metal component in the enzyme nitrogenase. This enzyme allows legumes to convert atmospheric nitrogen to a form available to plants and is really involved in the key functioning of nitrogen-fixing plants. Essentially, this enzyme plays the main role in what we call nitrogen fixation. Without enough molybdenum, this enzyme does not work well, resulting in reduced growth of legumes. In other plants, early signs of molybdenum deficiency include irregularly shaped leaves and yellow spots. Last week we talked about some important plant macronutrients, which are nutrients plants need in very high quantities. This week we will be talking about micronutrients, which are, well, you guessed it, nutrients plants need in small quantities. These include manganese, zinc, copper, boron, molybdenum, chloride, and nickel. Typically, plants only need a few parts per million of these nutrients per unit of plant dry matter to function properly. And oftentimes the soil supplies adequate amounts of these nutrients. However, in some cases, soil pH or other chemical attributes can interfere with the supply of these nutrients, producing serious consequences for plant growth. In some cases, plants can employ strategies to increase the availability of micronutrients around their roots. For example, roots of many plants can leak sugars into the soil. These organic molecules actually bind micronutrients and allow them to move more easily through the soil. This week we are talking about micronutrients, which are nutrients plants need in only small quantities. Iron is an important micronutrient that is often added to soils. Iron helps form heme proteins in plants that are very important in providing antioxidant protection. Plants produce a lot of oxidants during photosynthesis. If these oxidants were not neutralized, plant cells would be catastrophically damaged. Iron prevents this from happening. In most plants, a major symptom of iron deficiency is inhibition of green pigment production, resulting in yellow leaves. Iron often is limiting on calcareous soils and is responsible for Lyme-induced chlorosis. On the other hand, iron toxicity, which we often call bronzing, can be a problem on waterlogged soils and can be very detrimental to wetland rice operations. This week we are talking about micronutrients, which are nutrients plants need in only small quantities. Yesterday we talked about iron. Today we're going to talk about copper. In most plants, copper concentrations between 5 and 15 parts per million is usually adequate for plant growth. Copper deficiency, however, can have large effects on the durability of plant tissue, as well as grain, seed, and fruit formation. The main reason for the decline in seed and grain yield that we see in copper deficiency is because pollen produced by copper-deficient plants is often not viable. The main reason pollen produced is not viable is because copper is part of two enzymes that help make the cell walls in pollen. When copper is in short supply, the cell walls and pollen grains become weak, resulting in low viability. Copper deficiency usually results in stunted plants, bleaching or white spots on young leaves, and wilting of leaves due to the impairment of cell wall development and the water conducting apparatus of the plant. This week we are talking about micronutrients. Yesterday we talked about copper, and today we're going to talk about zinc. Most plants only need very small amounts of zinc in their leaves, about 15 to 20 ppm, or parts per million. However, zinc deficiency is widespread in highly weathered tropical soils, as well as a lot of the calcareous soils we have around here. As a result, zinc deficiency can play an important role in meeting the nutritional requirements of developing countries characterized by these types of soils. This is because zinc plays a huge role in protein synthesis. Grain crops that are not supplied with enough zinc have very low protein content and very high amino acid content because plants are not able to convert the amino acids to protein. Early signs of zinc deficiency in broadleaf plants include stunted growth and reduction in leaf size. In cereals, signs of zinc deficiency include chlorotic bands along the midrib and red spots along the leaves. Tomorrow we will wrap up our discussion about micronutrients. This is Jeremy James. Thanks for listening.